Jeffrey Epstein, a 66-year-old businessman and a former teacher from New York, was a man with many connections. His contacts include powerful and influential people like the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and UK's Prince Andrew. At around July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in New York for multiple charges of horrendous acts, like for example sex trafficking of underage children. He of course pleaded not guilty in court, thinking he can get the easy way out thanks to his powerful connections and wealth. But fortunately, he wasn't granted any bail. After just 1 month and 4 days, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead by apparent suicide. Skepticism surrounding his death quickly aroused. Wasn't Jeffrey Epstein supposed to be in 24/7 watch by the security following a previous suicide attempt by Epstein? Why did he die right after promising to tell the court who else is involved in his worldwide pedo ring in exchange for a lineal sentence? To everyone who is paying attention, it was clear that there was some foul play at play here. Fingers everywhere started being pointed. Some blamed the Clintons. Might they not have killed him off so he doesn't rat Bill out? Others blamed Trump. Might he not have killed him off so he doesn't rat Donald out? His death and legacy quickly became a hot political question for both Democrats and Republicans to bicker at each other about. And as usually happens in these political debates, the truth became less and less important in this debate, and the true associates behind Epstein's evil acts were led off the spotlight. But who are those associates, and why is everyone missing the most obvious signs that can potentially reveal exactly who is behind his death and evil activities? Why was Jeffrey Epstein a mod in the official Geometry Dash Discord server and in Geometry Dash itself, and reportedly had regular conversations with Robert Topala? Why did Epstein watch almost every single Hussey video, and usually was spotted being the top commenter in almost every Hussey video? Why was Jeffrey Epstein wearing an Ouroboros t-shirt the day he died? And why was Jeffrey Epstein watching almost every single Knobbelboy stream and also moderating the chat, including his relentless killing of Muhammad soldiers? Well, get ready everyone, because today we here at Muhammad Team are suggesting that Robert Topala, Hussey, Viprin, and Knobbelboy are all the main associates of not only Jeffrey Epstein, but other people such as Harvey Weinstein. After our success with the Sea documentary, which caused Sam Anderson's plans to falter and Muhammad to come out victorious, we've been hard at work researching our next target, Robert Topala. But after doing more research for around 11 months, we found irrefutable evidence that suggests that all these 4 individuals mentioned before are not only a part, but high-ranking members of a pedo ring involving many famous and powerful people in the world, and evidence that suggests that all 4 of them have done horrible things to minors. Our team, as well as the Chris Hansen team, has been hard at work working with both the Onision case and the RobTop case, and we are relatively confident now to come out with our research. Before we get into what we have uncovered in these last 11 months, we must put out a disclaimer. All of the allegations that will come to light in this video are allegations. All of those individuals are innocent until proven guilty. They have already been sentenced by the Muhammad-line court for their murders of hundreds of innocent Muhammad soldiers, but they still have been sentenced for their crimes regarding this aspect.
Robert Topala, or RobTop as he is more widely known as, is the creator and sole manager of the game Geometry Dash. Many in the Geometry Dash community have been confused as to why he takes so long to update his game, and what he is doing outside of Geometry Dash that could cause this. And now, we might have an answer to that question. Over the years, starting from his rise to fame from 2013 to 2017, RobTop had been gathering powerful connections with a lot of wealthy and powerful individuals from different regions of the world, most commonly in America. RobTop apparently, according to many flight logs stored by RobTop's private secretary Anika Dallas-Tom, visited New York at least every week and reportedly stayed there for at the very least half of the week. At other times he would stay there for several weeks straight, which raises the question, what was he doing there? Our research team has been investigating this question, and we think we have an answer. Through our investigation, we have noticed that his flights to New York mysteriously stopped at around summer of 2019. We've also noted that after his flights to New York stopped, he mysteriously started becoming much more active in his community and working more on his game, which is something you would expect. But the question here is, what was he doing in New York? Looking through the records kept by his secretary, it is noted that Robert stayed at one location in particular when going to New York. which is 90 71st Street at the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Does this address sound familiar? It should. It's the exact address of Jeffrey Epstein's private mansion, or was until Epstein's arrest in summer of 2019. It is unclear how Epstein and Topala met. One theory suggests that they met through Epstein's love for Topala's game. As stated before, it is very obvious that Epstein had an addiction when it came to Geometry Dash, and that Epstein invested thousands of hours in the game and was following the game and its community with a burning passion. According to police logs, Epstein actually had a room in his mansion called the Dash Room, which was filled with Geometry Dash and Boomlinks related items, and it was where his computer was located in. He would apparently lure children into these rooms, and because of the drug nature of Geometry Dash, they would get hooked by it. Epstein would then later use their distraction to sexually abuse them. But what is known about Topala's and Epstein's relationship is that they met at around 2016, judging by the different pictures of both of them in it. Topala would frequently stay in the guest room of Epstein's mansion, which to those unfamiliar, the mansion has been exposed to have been the scene of multiple cases of sexual trafficking and sexual assault of minors, which raises the question, since Topala was most likely aware of what was going on in the mansion he was staying at, why didn't he do anything? Or worst of all, was he a part of it? This isn't only Epstein's mansion Topala was spotted at, but also at Epstein's private jet, nicknamed the Lolita Express. For those unfamiliar, the Lolita Express is basically like a sex jet made for Epstein and his powerful pedophile friends. The jet's floor was padded so they could have sex with minors and a bunch of other illegalities similar to that, which makes it obvious to anyone who would even have a glance at it that it had more of a purpose than to just be a private jet. This also explains why Topala has connections with Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. Now, the question is, how did RobTop not notice all of these crimes going on? He should have noticed from the first ride and reported it to someone, but he didn't, and he kept it a secret. And worst of all, he might have committed some of the sexual assault himself. We actually got a leaked phone call between RobTop and one of his victims. Take a listen.
Wait, guys. I'm getting some hellish signals on my PC. Think this documentary is getting hacked. No, Rustam have mercy. Rustam يحفظ الفيلم الوثائقي من الشيطان. No!
Hello! It is I, Night Theory! And I just want to say that soon all of you will be addicted to the Geometry Dash drug and be under control of Robert Topala, my dad. Anyways guys, it was fun hacking into this documentary. I need to go to roleplay. See ya!
Okay guys, that was super scary. Anyways.
Another thing to note before we go into the next point is that RobTop's dad on Facebook looks a lot like Jeffrey Epstein. But if Jeffrey Epstein is RobTop's dad, we demand a DNA test from Topala to confirm whether or not they're related. We've actually had an interview with representatives of RobTop's Geometry Dash empire. The pictures are now up on screen. We've originally tried getting in touch with RobTop to get his side of the story, but as you can notice, it is very clear that these people are under some kind of order to keep quiet about Topala's and Epstein's relationship, and that topic is a very sensitive topic for not only Topala, but people that serve him. And it seems like Topala's people are under orders to silence anyone that brings it up, as our interviewer was harassed and then stripped of his First Amendment rights in the place where we originally tried setting up the interview. He had to go to therapy because of this. Shocking stuff, guys. Let's move on. Now that we have established Topala's and Epstein's relationship, let's talk about Epstein's arrest all the way up to his suicide that all happened around summer of 2019, and how exactly Topala managed to get away from getting arrested during these troubled times. On July 6th, 2019, Epstein was infamously arrested for suspicion of sex trafficking. During that time, Topala was in his hometown of Vespi, probably driving his 10 cars. But when he heard about his longtime friend's passing, he didn't mourn him or become sad, but instantly became scared. Scared for his own safety. He knew that it was all a matter of time until the authorities would suspect him and start asking him all sorts of questions, and from that it will all lead to one single end result: his arrest and imprisonment. So RobTop got to planning. He, after a while, decided that he needs to distract the general public as well as the police from himself and bring their suspicions onto other people, and he thought, what's the best way to do this? After a long while of thinking, he got the brilliant idea of manipulating the media to draw attention and cover up everything he's doing. Since the police acts upon what the public wants, it'll make them also stop looking into Topala and onto the other individuals. But exactly how would he manipulate the media? Topala was almost $30 million in debt. How could he possibly manage to arrange anything with these media empires? But luck strikes RobTop. For those who have watched Inside C's mind, know about C1997 and his almost total control over 50% of mainstream media companies at the time. And for those unfamiliar, C1997 and Topala have a very close relationship, almost like boyfriend and boyfriend, but not really, since Topala's boyfriend is Viprin, but Topala cheats a lot, so that explains his relationship with C. So, Topala got the idea of asking his lover for help to help cover up his involvement with Epstein in exchange for sexual favors. So, he set off to the UK to go meet up with C. When he arrived in London, he took a bus to Reading, England, where C was currently in exile, and walked all the way to an abandoned bunker that hadn't been used since the 1950s, which was also populated with a bunch of cockroaches, aka C's and RobTop species. To give you some context about the situation C and his organization was in during this time, it's important to know that July 2019 was the time C was crumbling, and on July 15th, 2019, he surrendered to Mohammed, thanks in part because of the documentary which made C's evil actions public knowledge. During the time RobTop visited C, C knew he was losing and was on his final breath. He knew he was going to lose to Mohammed no matter what he did. So when RobTop visited C, he was more accepting of RobTop's idea of transferring his stake in these mainstream media companies, because C knew that when he's eventually defeated, they'll land in Mohammed's hand, where they belong. So C agreed to RobTop's proposal, and RobTop got control of all of C's stakes in these mainstream media companies, only if he agreed to help C whenever he would ask for it, which RobTop instantly agreed to. As soon as he got the agreement with C done, he took a flight back to his shithole in Sweden and started mounting his plan in action. He instantly commanded news media companies such as CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News to start accusing all sorts of people with collaborating with Epstein, and replacing what he was made responsible for with other more respectable, like Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell. And another thing to note is how RobTop made sure that this whole Epstein arrest would become a political hot topic by making sure that both Republican and Democrat leaders would get accused of being collaborators of Epstein, so that it can distract even more. Which is how RobTop got away from responsibility, at least temporarily. By overwhelming the public with so many big names, his name was just forgotten. Same thing with the police. They were too occupied looking into other people that they completely missed the connection between Epstein and Topala. So for now, Topala had narrowly escaped accountability, but the question here is if he can escape it permanently. That's a harder task to do than just temporarily distracting, and it would be hard for Topala to do that, but he at least was temporarily able to buy some time for himself to think of something. Or did he? Because just a few weeks after his arrest, there were rumors going around that Epstein is negotiating behind closed doors in exchange for a leaner sentence, and that Epstein would rat out everyone who had been involved in his little secret, including RobTop. When RobTop heard about this, he was shocked. Shocked that his old friend is now considering betraying him, and most of all, he was hopeless. Well, he could possibly do to stop this. Every single idea Topala could think of was completely unrealistic. He couldn't even get a hold of Epstein to just talk to him for a few minutes because the prison Epstein was held in said they couldn't allow that. So Topala thought his only way out of this mess was to escape to Siberia and live out his days there. As Geometry Dash HQ was packing up to leave for Siberia, one of RobTop's closest and most loyal cronies, Viprin, got an idea. He really didn't want to go to Siberia because he didn't like the code, so Viprin suggested murdering Topala's longtime friend and that he himself would personally carry it out. We can see the conversation play out on Discord DMs between Viprin and RobTop here. Topala was hesitant to let Viprin go on such a mission because Topala was actually married to Viprin and they were deeply in love with each other back then. If you want to learn more, I suggest you check out Mohammed's The Rich Life of RobTop video. But besides that, RobTop was really hesitant to let Viprin go on such a mission. He didn't want to lose the only thing he loved in his life. Viprin was adamant that he either would kill Epstein or kill himself because he didn't want to live in Siberia. And after some back and forth between Viprin and Topala, RobTop eventually agreed to Viprin's proposal. And just a week later, on August 10th, 2019, Epstein killed himself by quote-unquote hanging himself in his prison cell under really suspicious circumstances, which I am sure I don't need to describe to you. And a day later, on August 11th, Viprin was reported to be back from the USA to Sweden. Weird, isn't it? Could Viprin potentially have killed Epstein to conceal Topala's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? We may never know.
Viprin, his real name being unknown and very little being known about his past, has proven to be one of RobTop's most trusted cronies and loved ones. We don't even know how this man looks like other than a child picture that our investigators suggest to be fake. From our investigations, we have uncovered shocking evidence that not only expose new light into the activities Viprin is involved in, but also they shed new light into the Harvey Weinstein scandal that could potentially change everything regarding what we know about the scandal. Before we get into that, however, I feel that it's important to let you know who exactly Harvey Weinstein is, as he's very involved in this whole vile business. For those who don't know, Harvey Weinstein is a former film producer who co-founded and was the CEO for the film producing giant Miramax, who were behind such great hits like Tom and Jerry the movie. At around fall of 2017, it was exposed that Weinstein has had sexually assaulted multiple women after almost 80 women came forward accusing him of that. Shortly after, he was fired from his company, and on May 25, 2018, he was arrested for several counts of rape. On February 24, 2020, he was officially charged for these crimes. Now you may be asking yourself, how is Viprin involved in any of this? And why is this all so important when it comes to Viprin? They don't even know each other, or do they? We've actually got some shopping records from Viprin's store that we got from Teespring after our lawyer team successfully subpoenaed them to release these records. As you can see, it's pretty empty because barely anyone buys his stuff, except for Viprin himself, of course. Except for a few large purchases, all originating from around the summer of 2017, these purchases would have made a normal Teespring store go out of stock, but for this store it didn't. The logs show that there were plenty of shirts left after the purchase, which suggested that these purchases were planned and the store was ready for them. This info alone would not be that suspicious, but what does bring suspicion is the fact that all of this merchandise goes to one single address located in Los Angeles, California, at the 1901 Avenue of the Stars, the exact address for Miramax. Which raises the question, who was buying this dog shit? Who would be deprived enough to buy such disgusting items? Maybe the same people that are deprived enough to sexually assault women. Perhaps people like Harvey Weinstein. It's no secret that rapists and sex offenders are attracted to Geometry Dash. It's actually one of its most core audience. But what is, however, a secret is how rich and powerful rapists and sex offenders are attracted to Geometry Dash. Geometry Dash has sort of created an avenue for these type of people to meet each other, which is how Viprin and Weinstein met. It's unclear exactly how they met, but it's suggested by our sources that Weinstein was spotted at multiple occasions on Viprin's streams around the summer of 2017. It didn't take long for Viprin to mod Weinstein, and even less for Viprin and Weinstein to start talking. After not long, Weinstein offered Viprin to star in his next super movie, through Discord seen here. But thanks to Viprin's social anxiety, he said no in starring for the movie, but did in fact offer to work behind the scenes. The social anxiety was more or less an excuse, according to our experts, as Viprin was probably not wanting to put himself in the spotlight, so there was no risk of his private activities coming out. Weinstein understood his new friend and offered him another type of job, a very different type. Weinstein offered Viprin a job as his private secretary. He would be paid a very good salary and have access to a lot of confidential information pertaining to Miramax.
What's up, homies? This is Tyron with the Mohammed Jakalim Al Abdullah lawyer team, and I just want to warn RobTop, RedHuseey, Knobbelboy, and Viprin to not try to illegally take down this documentary. Cause if you do, me and my homies will sue your pocket dry. Never mind. Just realize that all of you are poor. You are all poor. Anyways, guys, sorry for interrupting. Back to the documentary.
Thank you, George Floyd, or whatever your name is. I forgot. Anyways. Viprin was a bit iffy on if he should just accept this job, but after just a few minutes of thinking, he accepted this position and agreed to be flown to New York. However, Viprin was a bit worried when it came to RobTop. He knew that if he would have to abandon his longtime lover in order to pursue his job. He knew that RobTop loved him dearly, as you would probably expect from a married couple such as RobTop and Viprin. But truth be told, no one really likes RobTop. They just use him for their own personal gain, and then abandon him the first chance they get, because that's how pathetic he is. So Viprin's question was not if to abandon RobTop, but when. When to get that perfect opportunity to leave for America, to start his new job as a private secretary for Miramax, and in extension, a new life. And luck would strike Viprin very shortly, as just the next week Topala was invited back into Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, which Viprin knew from personal experience that he would stay there for a while, thanks to Epstein's and Topala's relationship. So Viprin thought of seizing that opportunity and making his way to California and starting work on his new job. He was already given a private house near the headquarters and a time for his first day. Viprin was undoubtedly excited and was looking forward to his new job. But there was something else worrying Viprin, and that was his new friend's very known pastime of sexually harassing women and the problems that can lead to. Not because Viprin felt any type of remorse for any of Weinstein's many victims, but because Viprin was afraid that this whole vile situation would get exposed and have Viprin's whole reputation be ruined, and that he would probably even get arrested. So when Viprin was filling out official paperwork he got in the mail from Miramax, and had to disclose his full legal name, he wrote down a fake name, and that fake name was Zelda Perkins. And we know this is a fake name because there's no one in the world named Zelda. That name is a fake name. This was to protect Viprin in case he would get caught serving Weinstein. Everything seemed set for Viprin to finally start working as Weinstein's assistant. He had a plane ticket set to California that would depart August 11th, 2017. Until then, Viprin made sure that Topala would depart from Sweden to his good friend Epstein at around that time so he could quietly abandon his lover without anyone noticing. He made sure that both RedHuseey and Knobbelboy, who at the time were living with Viprin and RobTop, kind of like children to the family, keep quiet in exchange for a shout-out on his channel. They agreed, and then came the date, August 11th, 2017. Topala was gone in New York, and Viprin set off for California. When Viprin arrived, he was instantly greeted by his good friend Weinstein at the airport, who didn't hesitate giving Viprin the warmest welcome possible. Reports suggest that as soon as Weinstein saw Viprin in the airport, he gave him the biggest hug he could give, and then gave Viprin a statue of Viprin that he himself had carved out of wood in anticipation for Viprin's arrival. This is according to many eyewitnesses at the airport. Viprin was undoubtedly very excited to start working for his new powerful boss, and thought that working as an assistant would be an easy and fun job, with a good pay as well. But little did Viprin know at the time, he was making a massive mistake and taking the biggest risk of his life, and that the worst was to come when Viprin would get involved in one of the biggest scandals that have rocked the Hollywood world in recent times. Now, we have tried getting in touch with Viprin about these allegations, and we did in fact get in touch with him, but as soon as we wanted to set up an interview with Viprin, he instantly started harassing the interviewer and started trying to change the subject to age. When that didn't work, thanks to the professionalism of our interviewer, he instantly started calling the interviewer foul names such as troll, and eventually banned and stripped him of his First Amendment rights. Disgusting behavior, but what do you really expect from a monster like Viprin? After Viprin settled into his new home in California, he instantly, the next day, started working as Weinstein's private assistant at Miramax. As soon as Viprin got into the office and officially started work, he got a phone call from some unknown number. Viprin was all excited at that point, and he was now about to deal with his first patient, and he, for the first time in his life, was about to do some work. Before all of this, Viprin was homeless his whole life, and didn't work for a single day in his life. Now finally he is doing something he thought was productive in his life. Then Viprin picked up the phone, and as soon as he did that, he unknowingly just changed Hollywood history. Cause when he picked it up, there was a lady on the other side of it. She claimed that Weinstein has had sexually assaulted her, and that she got video proof of it, and that if the Miramax company would pay her around $10 million, she would be releasing all of this info to the public. Her tone was very threatening, and as you would expect. And before Viprin could even respond, she hung up, leaving Viprin shocked that this is even happening. Viprin had assumed that Weinstein has all of his victims under control, and there was no chance of any of them coming public with their experiences, judging by what Weinstein had told him. But after this phone call, Viprin's whole world was put upside down, so to say. Immediately after, he ran to his new boss to discuss this topic and advice for what Viprin should do in this difficult situation. It's unknown what exactly was discussed between Weinstein and Viprin in that room, as it was a private conversation between the two in a locked room. So no whistleblowers could possibly know about this. But there is a couple of professional theories that suggest that Weinstein instructed Viprin to do something gruesome, something unprecedented, something that would get him in jail for his whole life if caught. A week after that phone call, the original victim that came forward with the threat was found dead in her apartment by an apparent suicide. Something that would be very common with the people that have interacted with Viprin. There were no fingerprints found on the scene, and nothing that indicates that anything foul was going on. But I think you can agree with me that this is all too suspicious, isn't it? After that whole debacle was settled, and the situation magically sorted itself out, Viprin knew that he would have to take steps to protect his boss from any future accusations, and that stuff would have to drastically change if Weinstein would have any hope of not getting arrested for his crimes. So first thing Viprin made sure to do was to make sure that Weinstein's sexual assault would be overseen by Viprin, and every time a victim would be raped by Weinstein, Viprin would be there to bully the already distraught victim into submission and make scary threats pertaining to their families and well-being if they would even think about talking about their experiences. Viprin would make sure all of them would keep their mouths shut, and would also later stalk them everywhere to make sure they don't even privately tell anyone about their encounters with Weinstein. In fact, Weinstein and Viprin were so close that in a secret recording made by one of the victims, you can actually hear Viprin in the background streaming Geometry Dash to his drug-addicted fans. Let's have a look.
I agree with it. Looks like I am done.
A little bit.
Okay, alright, then I won't. So what do you want?
No, it's okay. So I have your hand in so many things, and you do so many things. So I have a lot to say.
Wow, guys, that's so shocking. The fact that Weinstein doesn't even react to the noise Viprin is making makes me think this is a regular occurrence, and this is nothing out of the ordinary. Huh. They must have been very close. Let's talk about what came next and the extent of Viprin's involvement in the upcoming scandal, and how one of the biggest criminals in Hollywood history might have gotten away without paying any price at all. During the time Viprin and Weinstein were working together, there was a lot of tension between him and his boss. Tensions that all started after Viprin officially took control of Weinstein's sexual assault department. After Viprin had control of it, he was pissed off that Weinstein is forcing him to do stuff that Viprin didn't like. He liked bullying the victims, don't get me wrong, but what Viprin did not like was the fact that he had to keep track of hundreds of women, even out of his work time. He tried to talk to his boss about hiring more assistants to keep track of everything, but Weinstein was adamant, thanks to his social anxiety, that Viprin would be the only one, which pissed off Viprin a bit, but he kept it in. That wasn't the only occasion where Weinstein and Viprin were at a disagreement. Once, according to reports, Weinstein apparently told Viprin that Ouroboros is overrated, which made Viprin get extremely mad, and both of them engaged in a prolonged screaming match, which ended in Viprin skipping the week in protest until Weinstein apologized, and apologize he did. He gave in to the pressure and apologized to Viprin by giving him roses, and Viprin instantly forgave him. It reminds me of RobTop's and Viprin's relationship. There was also another occasion where Viprin was asked by Weinstein to stop streaming and help rape women, but Viprin denied, citing that he had a commitment to his fans to his stream. This made Weinstein mad and he destroyed Viprin's computer. He destroyed it by throwing it out of the window. Keep in mind that they were on the 30th floor, so the computer landed on some innocent bystander that was near the offices. This made Viprin mad too, and both him and Weinstein started another screaming match, where Viprin and Weinstein almost started physically fighting, but they were separated by Weinstein's security, and Viprin was beat up afterwards with Weinstein's permission. This was close to the tipping point for Viprin. He could probably accept his level being insulted, but he couldn't accept his computer getting destroyed, especially with all these child pictures on them. But afterwards, after getting beat up, Viprin was instantly seduced again by Weinstein with red roses, which Viprin accepted, but this time with a burning hatred brewing in his body. A rage that would eventually lead to one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood history. The rage that was raging inside Viprin's body was now close to its tipping point. And eventually that final straw came, and it came soon. Something that would make Viprin explode with rage. Something so unbelievable and insane that Viprin could barely believe that his boss and potential love interest would do that. Let me set the scene. It was a sunny day, the 23rd of September 2017. Viprin was just starting work that day at around 7:23 a.m. He just arrived in the office and just got undressed. He was on his way to his office to start his work with defending Weinstein from his victims, but as he was passing Weinstein's office to get to his office, he noticed that his boss was in earlier than expected. So Viprin decided to check in with his boss to see if he was sexually assaulting anyone. But when he entered the room, he was greeted by something truly horrifying, something that made Viprin's jaw drop to the floor in shock. Something that Viprin could not forgive. When he entered the room, he saw Weinstein and RobTop having sex with each other. This surprised not only Viprin, but also RobTop, who had no idea that Viprin and Weinstein even knew each other. The scene was so gruesome. Both of his love interests were naked with each other. Viprin couldn't contain himself. He instantly started crying, and after a short while, the crying turned into anger. He began screaming at both RobTop and Weinstein, but primarily at Weinstein, about how he could dare do this to him. Weinstein did not understand why Viprin was so mad at him out of the sudden. He knew nothing about RobTop and Viprin's relationship, and just thought that he was angry because he was fucking a woman with a dick. Keep in mind that everyone thought RobTop was a girl because he looked like one, and he was a very high-level prostitute in the prostitute business. So Weinstein had no idea that he was fucking a man, and thought that the dick was just because he was transgender. But Weinstein wouldn't let himself be screamed at and humiliated in front of all his co-workers by some assistant, and instantly started screaming back, and quick, Viprin and Weinstein were involved in a screaming match that everyone in the building could hear. RobTop, however, quickly got dressed and bolted out of the room like the little pussy that he is. LOL. However, that screaming match continued for a while until eventually, Weinstein had had enough. He had enough with Viprin constantly bossing him around, like he was somehow inferior to Viprin. He had enough with his shitty Geometry Dash playing habits, and he had had enough with just everything with Viprin. So in the heat of the moment, Weinstein told Viprin he was fired, and shocked even Viprin. He was under the impression that he was unfireable, and that no matter what would happen between him and Weinstein, he would keep his job. But that turned out to be a foolish observation, and what Viprin was now without a job. Weinstein immediately ordered Viprin out of his building. He didn't even allow Viprin time to get his stuff before going. He was told to instantly go. So he didn't even get his coat or anything, in fact. Weinstein's secret agents escorted Viprin out. Now Viprin was unemployed and he had no idea what to do. He decided to go home and decide his next move from there. But as soon as he got back home, he was being blocked by another group of Weinstein's Secret Service from entering his home. He was ordered to get out of the house and have at the very least 10 miles distance between him in the house and Weinstein's offices, or he would get professionally harassed by them and get an epic beating by 20 Secret Servicemen. Viprin being the pussy, he instantly bolted. Now, Viprin was officially homeless. A normal day turned into the worst day in his life. How could anything become any worse? He was now forced to live under a bridge near Hollywood with a bunch of street junkies. He got a mattress that was full of cum, piss, and everything else horrible you can imagine by a fellow junkie, and was being fed rats as food. This is a lifestyle Viprin was familiar, though, so it wasn't too bad for Viprin. However, the biggest concern for Viprin was not how luxurious his lifestyle is or anything. His biggest concern was to avenge himself. Take revenge on Weinstein, the man that he had done so much for, worked so much for, even overtime. A man that he had feelings for, the man who betrayed him, over so little. But he had no idea how. How could he, one man, manage to avenge one of the biggest movie directors in all of Hollywood? Revenge seemed like a distant dream for Viprin, and after every second that would pass by, it would seem even more and more hopeless to even try. Desperate, Viprin decided to call an old friend for advice, someone he had abandoned not so long ago to work for the man he would be asking for his help to avenge. The person he was calling was no other than RedHuseey. RedHuseey. Despite being abandoned by Viprin, RedHuseey was willing to help him, probably because RedHuseey was probably dropped when he was young, according to our reports. Viprin then proceeded to tell RedHuseey the whole story about what happened, with every single detail included. He didn't bother to sugarcoat anything. He told everything exactly how it is to his old friend. RedHuseey barely understood anything as he was occupied with doing something else at the time. But RedHuseey did note one thing, and that one thing is that Viprin had forced all the girls that Weinstein had raped to be silent, and that he would make sure that they kept quiet. These girls were basically slaves to Viprin, so RedHuseey thought that maybe Viprin should let all the girls speak out at the same time, so that Weinstein would almost certainly look guilty, and that public opinion turns on him. After Viprin explained the whole story, RedHuseey instantly made this suggestion to Viprin, thinking that would be a perfect way to avenge him. When Viprin heard the suggestion, he instantly realized how good of an idea that was. So many thoughts were running through Viprin's mind, and the truly evil side of Viprin came out. He almost couldn't contain himself because of how excited he was. He hung up on RedHuseey because he didn't really care about him. No one does, and instantly started planning his brilliant revenge. After that exchange, just a week later in early October of 2017, several women came out accusing Harvey Weinstein of rape, inappropriate sexual conduct, and a plethora of other horrible things that I can't even state. But after that, we all know what happened. On May 25th, 2018, he was arrested in charges of rape, and 2 years later, on February 24th, 2020, he was sentenced to 23 years in jail. So my question is, after everything I have told you, don't you think that Viprin might be involved in all of this? At least a little bit? However, you might wonder why we haven't heard anything about Viprin's involvement anywhere at all. Well, that's because of a multitude of reasons. First of all, Viprin made sure that the women never mentioned him, and they had no reason to do so in the first place, as all Viprin did was just organize them and gave them the green light. Viprin also made sure that none of his abuse would be brought up. If it would, Viprin would make sure they disappear. Another reason is because Viprin disguised all of his activities under the secretary name Zelda Perkins. He knew that sooner or later the FBI would start looking through documents and whatnot, so he knew that he needed to force some person to change their name to Zelda Perkins, so when the FBI needs the person for questioning, they take her, not Viprin. So Viprin forced this woman to change her legal name to Zelda Perkins and be legally viable for everything he had done. We don't yet know who she is or how she is involved with Viprin. We have a theory, however, that she was one of the victims of Weinstein's rape, and she was forced to do this by Viprin with threats to her family, which is something Viprin often does. But why hasn't Weinstein tried to speak out and call out Viprin, and make sure that he also gets this stain on his legacy? Simple. He is too embarrassed to admit that he liked the game Geometry Dash, which is one of the world's most dangerous drugs in history. Weinstein decided that he might as well be a serial rapist than a Geometry Dash player. He basically chose the lesser of two evils. And just like that, Weinstein fell from grace, all whilst Viprin was at home in Sweden enjoying the carnage. Speaking of that, how exactly did Viprin and RobTop make amends? Both of them were busted in abandoning and cheating on each other. This can easily break a marriage. Apparently, when he returned to Sweden from America, he tried contacting Topala, but that went nowhere as Topala ignored all calls from his former lover, Viprin, and refused to talk to him under no circumstances. So Viprin instead had to take drastic measures, aka calling the scum known as RedHuseey to beg him to unlock the door to the Volvo basement all of them were living before, so Viprin could get in. RedHuseey agreed and opened the door. Then at around nighttime the next day, Viprin arrived at the Volvo factory and calmly walked down to the basement. He didn't know what to expect. Did he expect Topala to be angry? After that thought, he started laughing because everyone in the world knows RobTop is a giant pussy, lol. That was a funny thought, Viprin. But after quietly entering Topala's basement and heading down a little staircase that leads to the actual basement, something happened that would alert everyone in the basement of Viprin's presence. That something was the fact that the staircase was very old and squeaky, so when Viprin stepped on the staircase, it made a huge squeak. Even more so considering how Viprin's weight is 120 kilos. The squeaky staircase is what Topala and his cronies used to their advantage to escape the Volvo factory guards, who patrol the staircase once in a while. So when Viprin was walking down the staircase, they instantly started hiding everywhere, thinking the Volvo guard is doing his nightly patrol. But Viprin was familiar with everything about Topala and knew where he usually hides when the Volvo guard searches the basement. Mainly inside the dirty toilet. So Viprin went there, and sure enough, Topala was there. When Viprin and Topala came face to face, there was a noticeable shock on Topala's face as to how he got into the basement. But also a lot of fear as Topala thought Viprin would kill him like he killed all the other women that didn't listen to him. So Topala's first thought was to run in fear. So that is what he did. But as he was about to start running, he tripped on shit and fell down. And since Topala doesn't have the physical strength to get up, he was left immobilized thanks to that. Usually Viprin would pick him up, even if barely, but this time things were different. Topala started begging for his life and soon after started crying. But Viprin told him that he wasn't there to kill him, sadly, but to apologize and be accepted back into his old lifestyle of living under the Volvo factory. Topala at first obviously refused to let him in and instead started begging to be killed because according to him, I'd rather die than let a traitor through. But then Viprin threatened RobTop by saying he would stop playing his game on stream, and that scared RobTop so much that he pissed his pants. And afterwards he said okay to Viprin's proposal and they both agreed to forget this whole Weinstein debacle. And if anyone else tries mentioning it, they would also get silenced by Viprin's murder skills. The same murder skills he would use against Epstein when Topala needed it.
In the history of mankind, we have had a lot of people that bring out the worst in mankind. People like Adolf Hitler, Ted Bundy, and Jeffrey Epstein are all good examples of the worst members of our kind. But there are few, very few, that are so despicable. Actions are so horrific and impossible that we at times just turn a blind eye to them. Which is why people like RedHuseey can get away with their evil actions. Someone who's so deplorable and hated that even people in his inner circle despise him. Someone who has no redeeming qualities, no charm, and no possible liabilities that it's hard not to ask yourself, how did he get away from responsibility from his numerous crimes? Let's for now ignore the fact that RedHuseey is nowadays one of the main promoters and peddlers of the dangerous drug known as Geometry Dash that has caused a whole generation of kids to become addicted to it and have their lives ruined by it, as well as later be grown up to be violent criminals. But let's instead for now focus on RedHuseey's troubled past and how what RedHuseey does today is not even comparable to the atrocities he was complicit in his early days. Just a warning that you will get very angry, so prepare to rate his chat after this video. First of all, look at this photo. I know it's disgusting, but try to look at it for at least 10 seconds. Does anything, in any sort, strike you as odd? You may at first say that there is obviously nothing wrong, it's just RedHuseey. But now, let me tell you something that might change your image of this photo. RedHuseey is apparently only 19. Now look at this image again. Now tell me, in what reality is this man 19? To me, he seems around 50 years old. I can't imagine him being any younger than that. You may wonder what relevance does that make. Tons of YouTubers lie about their age, especially a scum like RedHuseey. What's so big about all this? To answer this question, I will need to introduce you to a man that you have all probably heard of. A man that was one of the 1980s and 1990s most infamous serial killers. Someone who is still used to this day as an example of human brutality. Meet Jeffrey Dahmer. He has killed around 17 people in 10 years. He would usually kill them by dragging them. After he had killed one of his victims, he would keep their bodies for months or years. Something he would do is also cut them into smaller pieces, keeping them refrigerated for long periods of times, and then afterwards eating them. It's widely accepted that Daphne acted alone and had no sort of help from anybody. But from our investigations into Jose and his past life, we have not only found new discoveries when it comes to Jose, but also into Daphne himself. A secret Daphne took to his grave, and something Jose was also hoping to take into his grave. But thanks to our professional researchers, we have uncovered damaging information that may bring an end to Jose, or at least to his criminal actions, and it's something we'll start exposing right now. First of all, let's expose Jose when it comes to his age. Jose everywhere claims that he is only 19 years old and no older than that, but many documents refute that. Even Jose's own face refutes that. Here's Jose with makeup. Here he is without makeup. Shocking, right? But that's not the only thing that we have found when looking up in what class Jose went in. We have discovered that he went to the Revere High School located in Massachusetts, the USA. This proves that Jose is in fact not Dutch, but is from America. This also proves he went to the school around the 1970s, and as you can see on the photo, he looks much younger than how he usually looks like in his videos now. Our researchers think he was around 40 to 60 years old at the time of this documentary being recorded, which is much more likely when we consider everything that revolves around Jose. But that is not even the most shocking part of all this. Do you know who else went to the Revere High School in the 1970s? That's right, Jeffrey Daphne. We have recently got exclusive access to Revere High School's archives from that time by shooting it up, and found documents that not only talk about Daphne's social life, but also Jose. It very clearly says in these documents that both Daphne and Jose were incredibly close to each other while going to school. Very, very close in fact. It was very common for them to be called gay by their respective bullies, which honestly in retrospect is not a lie at all, considering the relationship between Jose and the pedophile known as Knobbelboy is quite disgusting in all honesty. In fact, the archives suggest that Jose and Daphne were actually considering creating a YouTube channel called Jose and Jeffrey, but that didn't work out as someone else stole the idea. When Daphne would have his very common epilepsy attacks, it was Jose that would clean Daphne up and save him up. Jose and Daphne apparently had no other friends at school at the time. They have only had each other. And that is where the information ends regarding Daphne's and Jose's relationship. There were more definitely, but as the Mohammed SWAT team was shooting up the school, the administrators of the school started burning archives. After the archives finished burning, they started doing Nazi salutes. They are now commonplace around people that play Geometry Dash nowadays. Our theory is that they were on a high dose of the Geometry Dash drug and were basically sleepwalking and doing RobTop's evil for him. But regardless, we have found out more about Daphne's and Jose's relationship through a bunch of witnesses that help us glue the story together. So, after Daphne and Jose graduated together from that school, they decided to go their separate ways as career choices and dreams didn't really match up. Jose wanted to become a drug dealer and started selling drugs to people, a career choice he would not abandon anytime soon. Daphne, on the other hand, decided to start studying as he had other dreams. Jose and Daphne promised each other that they would be kept in touch and that their friendship/relationship will not be broken apart just because of their different career choices. But as time went on, they would become more and more isolated from each other, and they started talking less and less, and eventually they just stopped talking completely, which left Jose completely alone as Daphne was his only friend and no one else did want to talk to Jose because that is how much everyone hates him. The only people that would talk to Jose are the other monsters. Not only that, but Jose's early drug career was not going to be good at all as you would expect, and he had barely any money to even feed himself, so he was forced to eat garbage just to survive. Laughing out loud, and that's what he deserves, lol. But anyways, eventually Jose started feeling lonely, and that's where he started seeking out social interaction. One of the people that Jose tried talking to was named Stephen Hicks. Jose would try befriending Hicks, but as always he would fail. Hicks would be an important character later on. That desperation for social contact eventually led Jose to try to get back in contact with Daphne, but at that time Daphne was just studying and working and had no intention to kill just yet. When Jose tried calling Daphne, Daphne instantly hung up and had no intention of meeting back up with Jose, as Jose reminded Daphne of his past, which Daphne had no intention of revisiting. Eventually, tired of being ignored and desperation for social interaction led Jose to go to Daphne's home directly, try talking to him there. We have already established that Jose had no social experience at all since high school, so he had no idea how to interact with people. So Jose thought it would be a good idea to break Daphne's window and hide in his bathroom as a surprise that he thought Daphne would appreciate. He did not. Daphne instead got mad at him for doing that and started screaming at Jose to get out of his house or he would call the police. Jose was confused, was also scared of the police, so he started headed towards the door. But suddenly, he closed the front door and Jose had no way to get out. The romantic tension between Daphne and Jose was too big for Daphne to ignore, and he just couldn't resist anymore, which is why he closed the door. After that, Daphne started kissing Jose, and one thing led to another, and soon enough, they would start having sex. The first time for both Jose and Daphne. The day afterwards, Jose started calling Daphne again, but Daphne yet again started ignoring all of his calls. Daphne was embarrassed for having sex with Jose, and I mean, who wouldn't? This time, Daphne put up steel windows so that Jose would not break in again. But the important thing here is that Jose activated Daphne's sexual fantasies, something that will lead to something much greater than the death of over 17 people. Then one day, on June 18th, 1978, Jose told Higgs to meet up in the forest, where Jose was planning on seducing Higgs and trying to have sex with him. Higgs was reluctant to go, as he did not like talking to Jose at all, and he thought the forest was a weird setting, but Higgs assumed that they would be hunting or something like that. But at last, Higgs agreed anyway for whatever reason, and went to that spot in the forest. They both agreed to meet there at around midday. Higgs came on the spot first, but when he arrived, he didn't see Jose at all. He decided to go wait a little bit, thinking Jose was just coming a bit late or something, but as 10 minutes, then 30 minutes, then 1 hour passed, Higgs became more and more impatient and eventually became tired of waiting and tired of standing there in the sun sweating, waiting for someone that probably wouldn't even come. He decided to call it a day and head back home. He took off his shirt too, because of how hot it was outside. He had no form of transport and he didn't want to walk all the way home, so he decided to hitchhike. And after a while, a man picked him up and he drove on his merry way. Then around 2 hours after their scheduled meetup, Jose arrived at the place. He was hoping that Higgs was still on the spot because he thought he was super important and special and deserving of special treatment from everyone. But as he arrived on the spot, Higgs was nowhere to be found. Jose was devastated. Jose has been trying to settle a drug deal between himself and a bunch of junkies on the street. They tried stealing his drugs, so Jose had to start using his natural disgust to scare them off. It took around 2 hours, but eventually it worked out. That is why it took him so long to get him to the spot where Higgs was. But as you know, it was too late. Jose cut his losses and decided to go back home and hopefully schedule another meeting with Higgs and hopefully have sex with him then. Jose tried calling Higgs or contacting him in any way. Higgs fell silent. Jose was confused as to why and eventually gave up on trying to contact Higgs and instead decided to try contacting other people and hopefully have sex with them. What is it that happened to Higgs? Did he just start ignoring Jose like any reasonable human being would? Well, yes and no. What happened to him is much more gruesome, cause the guy that picked him up as Higgs was hitchhiking was no other but Jeffrey Daphne, cause thanks to Jose letting up Daphne's sexual energy, Daphne now started to drive around the area trying to find hitchhikers that he could have sex with and then kill, which is exactly what happened to Stephen Higgs. According to Jeffrey Daphne's testimony, after he was arrested, he took Higgs to his home, where they both drank themselves until they were almost blacked out drunk. Then, when Higgs wanted to leave Daphne, Daphne would kill him by beating him up with a dumbbell. Then afterwards, he would dispose the body in the forest behind his home. And that was the first time Daphne would murder anyone. And after that, there was no going back for Daphne. And it's something that will continue for the next decade. Let's now fast forward to the year 1990. The situation for Jose barely changed almost a decade later. He was still a failed drug dealer that had to rely on garbage food and garbage-filled mattresses to stay afloat. But it wasn't a big deal for Jose. He was used to it. But at around December of 1990, Jose was just drug dealing like a usual drug dealer when he unexpectedly got a phone call that he was not expecting at all. He was a phone call from Jeffrey Daphne, his old-time friend and only friend he had in his life. Jose was not sure if he should pick it up or not, because Jose was worried that Daphne might tell him that he is pregnant after that sex they had, but then Jose remembered Daphne is a man and picked it up. Daphne, according to many reports, asked Jose how he was doing, and both of them chatted a bit about what they have been doing since the 1970s. Daphne told him he got an office work and he was working there full-time, and told him a bunch of other small details. Jose in exchange lied to Daphne that he was a wealthy businessman to make himself seem successful rather than a failure, which is exactly what Jose is. After a bit of chatting between Daphne and Jose, Daphne asked Jose if he would like to come over to his apartment. Jose agreed instantly as he had nothing else to do. They planned on meeting each other the following week and that Jose would come over to his apartment. Many of you might be asking yourself why Daphne decided to invite Jose from seemingly nowhere. Daphne was planning on doing something very horrific to Jose. Well, not horrific, but he deserved it. But horrific if it happens to any other human other than Jose. Daphne was basically planning to kill Jose and then eating him. But as you will see later, this didn't really go according to plan. When Jose arrived at Daphne's apartment, he was greeted as an old friend by Daphne, and they had a little reunion. Then both went into Daphne's apartment. As soon as Jose entered the home, he was overcome with a very strong smell, a smell that the neighbors have been complaining about extensively to Daphne, a smell that smells of rotten flesh that has been frozen for a very long periods of time. Jose tried his best of ignoring the smell as he entered the apartment, but as time went on, it became harder and harder to ignore. Daphne led Jose to his living room, where Daphne wanted Jose to wait. When Jose sat down and was all alone in the living room, Daphne went out to get his instruments that he would use to kill Jose, then later eat his body. And as that was happening, Jose decided to go investigate what the smell was, cause it was at this point unbearable. Jose had a good smelling ability from smelling all the trash for food, and quickly found what the source of the smell was. It was from the kitchen. Jose decided to get there and hopefully stop the source of the smell. Jose didn't think much of it. He thought it was only some dead rat that Daphne didn't get rid of for whatever reason, but as he went to the kitchen and pinpointed exactly where the smell was coming from and opened the fridge, he saw something no human being except for Jose should see. What he see is human organs and human body parts refrigerated inside plastic containers. It was the body of Daphne's victims that Daphne kept there so he could eat them one by one. Daphne was at this point far gone. He had gone to the point that he could not eat anything other than human flesh, which is why there were so many body parts in the fridge. As Jose was staring down all the body parts, there was something that he could not resist, something that made him crave something. That something was eating the body parts. He couldn't resist it at all, so like the true monster Jose is, he started eating a liver from a man. And whilst he was doing that, Daphne came back with his instruments. He was sneaking around his apartment with a baseball bat ready to knock up Jose to eat him later. But as he came to the living room, he saw that Jose was missing. He thought Jose escaped like his last victim, so he instantly gave up and decided to go to the kitchen to eat the refrigerated body parts in the freezer. But as he walked to the kitchen, he saw Jose eating the body parts. He had made a massive mess in the room from all the blood squirting everywhere. When Daphne saw Jose eating the body parts, he surprisingly didn't get angry, but instead happy that he finally found someone as monstrous as him. Some of our experts even think that Daphne started crying as soon as he saw Jose eating the body parts. But anyways, when Jose turned around and saw Daphne standing there, he also got scared and started apologizing profusely and telling him that he didn't know and all of that. But Daphne just silently went up to Jose and also started eating the body parts, and soon enough Jose also joined in. They were both eating the body parts of Daphne's victims, very passionately at that too. One body part after another, they were eating the bodies. They were eating for half an hour straight, not stopping for a second at all, not even to breathe. When suddenly, a phone rang. It was Jose's phone. Jose originally wanted to deny the call because of how invested he was in eating the bodies, and he really didn't want it to stop. But when he picked up the phone and saw who was calling, he knew he couldn't deny them at any cost. So Jose excused himself out of the kitchen and picked up the phone. It was Viprin. Viprin was asking for advice regarding his affair with Weinstein and everything to do. He gave the advice and hung up the phone, and he went back to eating the bodies. After more than an hour of eating, they were both full. They drank a bit of wine, and then afterwards, Husey went out on his merry way. He, in the first time, has felt some sort of joy that came about from eating another person. He and Daphne had planned another occasion to kill and murder another person and eat said person. The future was bright for Husey's weird killing and eating fetish, but as he got home and turned on the TV, he learned about something that would change Husey's world forever. The thing he would learn is that Daphne was arrested. One of the victims that escaped Daphne had snitched to the police, and they very shortly raided Daphne's mansion. This made Husey instantly scared, because he knew that his fingerprints and DNA was all over the place, and it was just a matter of time before the police find out who was also involved in this deranged fantasy headed by Daphne. So Husey instantly knew that he needed to escape the country as soon as he can. And that is exactly what he did. He packed up all the essentials in a suitcase, took the money he saved from selling drugs, and ran to the nearest airport in the area he was in. He didn't know where he would go, and he didn't really care. His only objective was just getting out of the country as soon as possible, so he boarded the first plane he could get onto. It was no other than Sweden, the home place of RobTop himself, the biggest drug dealer in all of Europe. When he got to Sweden, he instantly started living with the homeless and poor like he did when he was in America. It was simply natural for Husey, but Husey knew that he needed to set up shop in Sweden if he would ever had any hope to sustain himself whilst in exile. So Husey decided to explore his options when it comes to drug dealing in Sweden. It didn't take him long to meet up with RobTop and started selling a new type of drug, Geometry Dash. He would start his own YouTube channel and start advertising the drug known as Geometry Dash as well. The rest is history. But why didn't the police identify and request an extradition of Husey? Well, simple. Husey was so widely hated around the world that everyone refused to take his fingerprints, cause they refused to even touch him, which is why when they found Husey's fingerprints on the site, they struggled to identify them as there was no known record of them. When interrogated, Daphne just simply claimed that it was fingerprints from his other hand, since he had two hands, and the police thought that was reasonable and accepted that conclusion. That is how Husey, a cannibal, escaped justice. Now, of course, we haven't forgotten at all the secret tradition of this documentary. Yes, we did ask Husey to give his side of the story, and as we were doing, our interviewer was harassed harder than any other interviewer. First of all, they started acting like they don't know who Jeffrey Daphne is, which made me think they also had a relationship with Daphne, maybe one of Daphne's victims. But then, they started being racist towards our reporter just because he has a white name, which shows what kind of hatred Husey plants in his fans. But then, in a very shocking turn of events, they started praising Jeffrey Daphne and admitted that they also are aspiring to become cannibals. Yes, I have reported them to the law enforcement, so don't worry. After that, they started harassing our journalist big time and advocating to silence our journalist's voice. Because of Husey's reluctance to talk to me, our journalist had to tag his current lover, Knobbelboy, to help get in touch with Husey, but that did not work out, and instead, he got banned and got stripped of his First Amendment rights, which is really sad to see that is allowed to happen nowadays.
When we think about god-awful pedophiles, it's often we think of people like Jeffrey Epstein or Peter Scully, and for good reasons. They have forced countless of innocent children to horrendous experiences, made them lose their innocence, their hopes, and dreams. But at times, those pedophiles that we all lord and want nothing more but for them to disappear from our planet are allowed to be free and functioning members of society, and they face little to no consequences for their crimes. We saw that in 2009 when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and charged with child molestation but was given a very light sentence. When something like that happens, we all obviously get mad. But can you just imagine how many times a pedophile was left out to loose by the police? Must be a lot. Which is how the individual that goes by the name Knobbelboy was allowed to get away from his crimes with a really light sentence and was allowed to leave the country even though he had committed one of the most heinous crimes. You may be confused as to what I am even talking about. Well, listen up, cause I will explain everything. Knobbelboy, his real name being unknown, was born in the Netherlands, one of the most drug-infested countries in the world. Thanks to that, it was inevitable that he would eventually start playing the game known as Geometry Dash. But that is not his worst crime. At a very young age, he would get beat up by his father for being born, cause his father was very angry at the fact that he was taking away money for food, cause his father really wanted more money to buy drugs. Both of his parents were drug dealers too. So growing up, Knobbelboy would learn from them and have his parents as role models growing up, as any other kid would. Also to note, everyone he knew was also into drugs. Like for example, his classmates and friends were also into drugs, because he lived in the Netherlands after all. This type of upbringing and heavy investigation into drugs decided his future very early on. Everything in his life was relatively normal for a person living in the Netherlands, except for the part of being beat up by his dad. Thanks to this, Knobbelboy lost a lot of his childhood innocence, something that would be very important when he would eventually grow up. Now, let's look into a town called Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. Through our investigations, we found evidence that suggests that this is the very town where Knobbelboy grew up, judging by past graduation photos and such that we found. Interestingly enough, this town, turning the period of 1990s to the 2000s, had 5% of its children disappear, just completely vanish. And no one knows where any of these kids went for the longest time, until recently, when they were found in a basement in a house owned by no one else but Knobbelboy himself. So, how did that happen exactly? Well, it is a well-known fact that Knobbelboy has a sexual attraction towards minors. There is, after all, a reason why he hangs out with known pedophiles like RobTop. But what is surprising is the lengths Knobbelboy has decided to take this to, and how he was allowed to get away with it. You see, the way Knobbelboy would get children in was very easy. Since Knobbelboy was a very known drug dealer in the Netherlands, it was very common to him to sell drugs to parents, and his parents did not always have the money in order to pay for the drugs, so it was very common that they would sell their child in order to get a lifetime supply of drugs from Knobbelboy. What Knobbelboy would then do with these children, according to many different reports, is put them in his basement, that by many accounts were more like a massive organized dungeon or even a bunker. There were also sex rooms and other horrific stuff that I can't even get into because YouTube doesn't allow graphic descriptions of sexual acts, especially on minors, but all you need to know is that it was truly horrific. We actually got shocking footage that we obtained by hacking into Knobbelboy's PC that shows one of the victims. Let's take a look.
Please, Knobbelboy, I don't want to dance anymore. Please, I just want to see my parents. Please, Knobbelboy, let me go. I'm just a child. Why are you doing this to me? I don't want to keep dancing. Please, Knobbelboy Russell, have mercy on me.
Knobbelboy would continue to collect children from parents until he had over 5% of the whole town child population living in his basement. Their parents would not care, as they were overdosing on drugs that Knobbelboy gave them. This all raises the question, why is this not reported anywhere except for here? Where are we, the first ones to find out about this massive child pedo ring going on? Well, that leads us into the next chapter of the story, how Knobbelboy got away with it. With so many prisoners in Knobbelboy's bunker, it was just a matter of time until one of them would break loose and get the authorities' attention, which is exactly what happened. One of the children broke loose and ran off to the nearest police station and explained everything to them. They afterwards acted accordingly and arrested Knobbelboy and set all the children free. But there is something very critical that happened at that time. You see, somebody else in the drug industry took a keen interest in Knobbelboy, admiring him for his tactics when it comes to selling drugs. That someone was no one else but Robert Topala himself, the kingpin of the Geometry Dash drug. When RobTop heard that Knobbelboy has been caught, he instantly knew this was his chance to win him over to work for him and seize the opportunity. He flew all the way to the Netherlands from his shitty Volvo basement with one goal in mind, recruiting Knobbelboy. All the media outlets in the Netherlands were ready to start printing articles about Knobbelboy and publishing their interviews with the victims, and the police were preparing a trial against Knobbelboy. But then, out of nowhere, RobTop came in the country and started doing the unthinkable. He started selling the GD drug to the people of the Netherlands. RobTop would go around giving the GD drug to everyone that has any ties to any media corporation or the Netherlands authorities. He had previously reprogrammed the drug to erase the memories of everyone involved in the scandal and make them forget. So, he basically weaponized Geometry Dash. After erasing the memories of everyone involved in this vile business, RobTop let out Knobbelboy out his high-security prison in the Netherlands. The guards at the prison forgot why he was locked in there thanks to RobTop's drug, but Knobbelboy looks like a criminal, so they assumed that he deserved to be there, which is why they didn't instantly let him out. After getting Knobbelboy out of prison, RobTop offered Knobbelboy a simple deal. He will work for him and use his drug-selling talents to spread around the Geometry Dash drug in exchange for the allowance to exploit the children trapped in the Geometry Dash drug and fame on YouTube. Otherwise, if he were denied this offer, he would unerase the minds of everyone involved in this Knobbelboy scandal, and Knobbelboy would face the Netherlandic justice system. Knobbelboy, with little options left, accepted this offer and flew to Sweden. And after that is history. Knobbelboy entered a romantic relationship with RedHuseey, but that apparently has its own complications as RedHuseey constantly tries to eat Knobbelboy. That's mainly thanks to his past. Knobbelboy, upon coming to Sweden, also became one of Geometry Dash's most popular creators and became an icon in the community surrounding the Geometry Dash drug. He beat Bloodlust, which was also one of his biggest achievements, which we have proved that he hacked. He also has been responsible in the mass murder of a bunch of Mohammed soldiers, but don't worry, he'll pay. But that, in a basic sense, is Knobbelboy's story. It's shorter than all the others, because Knobbelboy is a dick-sucker idiot that is uninteresting and serves only as a sidekick to RedHuseey. Facts like they're Mohammedans. But before we close the book at Knobbelboy, we can't forget this documentary's prized tradition. Yes, it's time for interview time. Alright, so we sent 2 of our undercover reporters into one of Knobbelboy's allies' turf to ask him there. As Knobbelboy's Discord line is fortified and will expose the identity of our undercover agents. We started off by just asking him if he wants to clear up his name. We didn't mention what it was to not embarrass him to his community and hopefully get the interview. But as you can see, he instantly started laughing and making fun of this very serious situation. And Knobbelboy's ally brainwashed soldiers instantly started defending Knobbelboy with no proof to prove that he's not a pedophile. I mean, if you're gonna claim somebody is not a pedophile, then at least provide some evidence like... Anyways, sorry for getting off track there. But Knobbelboy kept on making fun of this situation and making fun of our journalists. Then he started asking for evidence so he could destroy them, so when we would not be able to present them to you, the viewer. But there were some brave souls in the chat who stood up for what's right. Good for them. Then, when the situation was turning in our favor, cause our journalists are the top class, the admin of the server started bullying the journalists and eventually silenced their voice, which is something the Geometry Dash Axis of Evil does a lot.
You've now heard the backstory of 4 of the most evil and despicable people in this world. They've been proven to be the most dangerous individuals and absolute giants when it comes to selling and making drugs. RobTop is a dangerous pedophile that is the creator of the drug known as Geometry Dash. Viprin is a woman abuser that protects sexual harassers. And RedHuseey is a human eater that also sells drugs, and Knobbelboy is a massive pedophile that kidnaps kids and tortures them. If anyone did even a percentage of what they did, they would be in jail rotting for the rest of their life. But they are not. Why is that so? To answer this question, we need to understand what exactly their plans are, and what exactly they want to do to this world. Many of you may be asking Muhammad stuff like, why are all of them working together with such different backgrounds? And why do people get so addicted to the Geometry Dash drug that they start donating money to Geometry Dash? What even is the goal of all of this? Well, I will tell you. To summarize it, RobTop, Viprin, RedHuseey and Knobbelboy are all working together in their tiny Volvo basement to get everyone in the world addicted to Geometry Dash, so later they and their alien overlords can take over the world and become the rulers of this world with everyone enslaved for them. I understand that may be too much to take in, but don't worry, I will explain everything to you right now in the order that they happened. So basically, in the year 2012 or 2013, we are not quite sure, RobTop was contacted by some aliens that we speculate are from Mars. We don't know much what was exchanged between the aliens and RobTop since they spoke telepathically to each other, but we know from a defector from this alien force that we will that we will not be disclosing the identity of, that the aliens noticed how RobTop was developing a super powerful drug that had potential of enslaving millions of people, known as the Geometry Dash drug. They have been for a while keeping a close eye on Earth and waiting until the right moment where they can come in and conquer it. But such a moment never arose. But they have been for a while keeping their eyes on RobTop as a potential help in their conquest, because RobTop is a treasonous scum that is treasonous against his own race. So, when they had a good moment, they teleported to RobTop and offered him a simple deal. He will, for the next upcoming unknown years, be developing his ZD drug for them and develop it to its full potential. After it's completely done, the Martian will return and the next part of the plans will be initiated, which we don't know. RobTop apparently agreed to this and instantly set off to work with it. But RobTop knew that he needed the best minds in the drug industry to pull this off. He knew that he alone, with all his drug-making power, could not hope to develop this drug to its full potential in the time frame he was given. So he wanted to get a bunch of people that would help him with their speciality and develop it fully, and also serve as protectorates of him to stop any law enforcement or others stopping him in his tracks. So before RobTop even started developing his Z drug, he started researching drug criminals around the world and see if they were worth to perform the task at hand. During his research phase, he set his eyes on 3 individuals who we all talked about during this documentary. These 3 people are Viprin, RedHuseey and Knobbelboy. He admired their skills, but especially when it comes to their skill in avoiding law enforcement, something that RobTop really needed as he was living in a Volvo basement. So one by one, he recruited all of them into his drug making business, and they all moved into his Volvo basement as they had little to no option. When that was all said and done, RobTop and his new acquired drug making teams quickly set to work on the new ZD drug. But you may ask, isn't ZD already a game? And it's out for like, I don't know, 7 years. What exactly are they developing? Maybe a new Geometry Dash game? No. What they are developing, according to our sources, is no other but Geometry Dash 2.2. And it all makes sense if you think about it. Why the hell would an update for a 2D block game take almost 3 years to come out? That makes no sense. But if I would tell you that RobTop is not developing a standard update, but an update that would fully weaponize Geometry Dash. This weaponization is so out of this world and unknown that even we don't even know what it is. But all we know for certain right now is that it's so dangerous that it's enough to render large parts of humanity into slaves consumed by the ZD drug. This leads me to what RobTop and his team of evildoers want to do with this drug. As soon as Geometry Dash 2.2 comes out, everyone that is currently addicted to this Geometry Dash drug, and everyone that was previously addicted to it, will come back to the game just expecting a normal game, nothing out of the ordinary. But as soon as they open it, it will be no going back. They'll be completely consumed by this new ZD drug. Their souls will be sucked out, and what will be left is a mindless zombie, ready to do anything RobTop or his gang tells him. This new ZD drug will also have the zombie element to it. Basically what would happen is that they will get so addicted they will start promoting the drug to everyone they know and don't know. And by that, more and more people will become zombies and be completely beholden to anything RobTop or his gang says. After a few months, or even weeks, more and more people will start getting addicted to this new drug. And sooner or later, most of humanity will be addicted to the ZD drug. And when that happens, the Martians will launch their attack towards the world. And when that happens, few if any would be ready to stand up against these alien invaders and fight for their lives, cause most of the population will be addicted to the Geometry Dash drug and have no interest in fighting back aliens. I say few, cause there will be a few brave souls like, for example, Muhammad and the Muhammaders that will be immune to the ZD drug and be ready to fight the aliens. It's too bad no one will recognize their heroism. Anyways, As soon as the Martians invade and establish total control over Earth, they will annex the Earth and make it a part of the Martian territory. When that happens, there will be no return. The Martian overlords will make RobTop the supreme ruler of Earth, where he would have total control over Earth and all its resources. RobTop will divide the Earth into 3 different local provinces, where RedHuseey, Knobbelboy and Viprin will rule. They'll basically become the governors of these areas, with RobTop being able to overrule them at any time. RedHuseey will take over the Americas, Knobbelboy will take over Europe and Africa, and Viprin will take care of the rest. And like that, they'll have total control over Earth. There will be no resistance movement, as everyone on Earth will be enslaved and brainwashed into following every order RobTop and his cronies give. And even if some people are immune to the ZD drug, they'll stand no chance, as they'll be outnumbered by the brainwashed ZD people, ready to do anything RobTop tells. The Martians will also start draining the Earth's resources for their own benefit, with RobTop and his cronies' support. They'll keep on draining everything until RobTop becomes nothing but an unlivable rock. RobTop and his cronies are okay with this, as the Martians have promised them that as soon as Earth becomes unlivable, they will be sent to their home planet of Mars, where they can live like kings. But that is not the worst part about all of this. No, far from it. The worst part about all of it is that RobTop, Viprin, Knobbelboy and RedHuseey will become the sole rulers of Earth, and they will start acting out the monster's urges. You can just imagine a bunch of children being tasked with satisfying the demands of RobTop and Knobbelboy, and Viprin forcing women to do what he wants, and RedHuseey killing people in order to eat them. According to our statistics, RedHuseey would eat around 20% of the America's population within 5 years of coming to power. Some scary stuff right there. But let's now talk about the people that are immune to this virus. I've touched upon this topic a little bit before, but I haven't told you exactly what makes them immune. But first, who are the people that are immune to this ZD drug? It's no other but the Rustamists, like Muhammad Jakalim al-Abdullah and his Mohammeders. What happens when you become a Rustamist is that God himself, Rustam, takes you under his wing and as this anti-ZD drug protection, which basically makes you immune to the ZD drug and generally anything bad that Rustam does not approve of. After me telling you all of this, you probably are scared shitless of what RobTop and his cronies are planning, and really don't want to be enslaved and then killed when the oxygen on Earth gets stolen by the Martians. Well, there's a way to beat back RobTop and his cronies and stop them from ever getting power. And it's similar to how we took down C-1997. Basically, to stop RobTop we need to do 3 things. If these 3 things are fulfilled, we can rest easy, knowing that Martians will never invade Earth and RobTop and his cronies will face justice as they deserve. So, let me go through these 3 things, one by one. 1. Everyone that is watching this and beyond has to subscribe to Muhammad Jakalim al-Abdullah and become a Mohammedan. After you've done this, search up the Boost Gamer and subscribe to him. Then comment, "Oh sweet Rustam, please protect me from RobTop, please." If your comment doesn't show up at first, after you post it, don't worry. You will be registered with God himself, and after you've done all of that, you are now a Rustamist and a Mohammedan. And now, you have a protection layer around you to stop the ZD drug from spreading any more into you. If more and more people do this, then more and more people can become immune. And through that we will grow our number, so if the day does come where the Martians invade this world, our number will be bigger than a couple of people, and more people will be able to protect our home from these traitorous scum and Martians. The second thing we need to do is to spread this video. Spread it to everyone you know, and rate every single ZD chat with this video. The more people see this video, the more aware they'll be about the dangers of this ZD drug, and more people will know the true dangers of this drug. After you spread it to as much people as you can go into hiding, go to your local food store and loot it. Explain to the workers there that you're preparing for the upcoming release of Geometry Dash Update 2.2. Trust me, they'll understand. Afterwards, take as much supplies as you can. Basically loot the whole store, take the whole store with you. Afterwards, find the nearest fallout bunker and establish base there. Make sure to get in contact with fellow Mohammedans in the area and establish militias, so if the Martians invade, you will be ready to fight them. Also make sure to watch Mohammed's videos, so when they do come out you can be ready for the updates. When it comes to the fight against RobTop and his cronies, is to report this Volvo basement to the police. Keep reporting it to the Swedish authorities. If they search it and they report that nothing was found, it just means that RobTop and his cronies hid from the police yet again, and we need to keep reminding them to search it. Search it over and over and over again until they find RobTop. Because not only does it delay RobTop from fulfilling his plan, it makes his arrest much more likely. So please, pick up your phone and call the Swedish authorities and inform them about RobTop hiding in this Volvo basement. These are the only ways you can find RobTop. There's no other way, and for the love of God, please uninstall Geometry Dash before it's too late.
And with that, we have disclosed everything that we know about RobTop, his gang, and the Martians' plans for total world domination. To summarize what we have learned in this documentary, RobTop is a pedophile that had dealings with Jeffrey Epstein and probably sexually assaulted a bunch of children. Viprin is a woman abuser that has abused countless of women and helped Harvey Weinstein in him sexually abusing women. RedHuseey is a woman eater that had very close contact with Jeffrey Dahmer. We still have no idea how many people he might have eaten. And the last, but certainly not least, Knobbelboy is a dangerous pedophile that has proven to have children hidden in his basement. All of these people have joined forces with alien invaders to develop a drug known as Geometry Dash 2.2. With this drug, they seek to take over the world and establish their own total control over this planet and enslave humanity. We cannot let this happen, and must do everything in our power to stop them, because it would be too late. I hope you Mohammeders enjoyed this documentary. Me and my massive team of researchers have spent over 3 hours researching and making this documentary. But just to remind everyone, everything here is allegations. Yes, they are most likely guilty, but before they are convicted in court, I can't legally say that they've done any of this. RobTop, RedHuseey, Viprin, and Knobbelboy have been doing everything in their power to try to stop this documentary from going public. Everything from banning innocent Mohammed reporters to shit-talking Mohammed himself, which is a capital offense where I am from, Mohammed-land. It's very likely that RobTop, Viprin, RedHuseey, and Knobbelboy will all try striking this video to hide the truth from all of you guys. And it's very likely that YouTube will comply, as they are a part of the media corporation that wants to silence the truth about these 4 traitorous scum. So please, if you care about the truth being out there, download this video, and if this video does indeed get taken down, spread it around to everyone you know. Post it everywhere you know. It's the only way we can protect this world from Martian invaders. Another thing I'd like to point out is that everything that has been presented here has been verified by Mohammed Evidence Analyzer. We would never think of putting out false or unconfirmed allegations against anyone. We only put out allegations that have been deemed to be sufficient enough to present them to you, the Mohammed viewers. But because of legal reasons, we can't outright tell you that they are true. That is up to the court of their respective countries to decide. But just be wary of misinformation, because RobTop, Viprin, Knobbelboy, and RedHuseey will all try making up lies about us and Mohammed Yakalem al-Abdullah to protect themselves and their alleged plans. But with that said, don't forget to subscribe to Mohammed Yakalem al-Abdullah and check out his other videos. He has some really eye-opening videos that will really reform your opinion on a lot of subjects. Also, don't forget to like this video, and with that said, thank you all for watching. Thank you for watching this whole 1 hour and 30-minute documentary. And if you do decide to help the world, we are grateful. We will see you in another video. Stay tuned for updates on our battle against Geometry Dash and these 4 evildoers. Goodbye, everyone.
And now, a message from Mohammed.
Hey guys, this is Muhammad Jack Kalem Al Abdul. Yes, this is how I really look like. You saw me 2 years ago when I was much younger, but this is how I really look like now. Wow, this documentary is finally out. It took me so much work to get it out. I'm so proud of all of the Muhammaders that worked day and night to make this documentary happen. Hopefully, now that it's out, RedHuseey, Viprin, Knobbelboy, and RobTop will also stop doing their evil deeds. Anyways, I got to go and have sex with my wife to produce some soldiers, but make sure to follow my main account, Alteria. And I see you later. Goodbye.
Ôi, bia, cút rồi nó ơi.